How would you like to be empowered with a learning framework that's so simple that anyone of any age can use it to develop their learning and to get the results that they desire? A framework that's easy to understand, one that allows for surface learning as well as the ability to delve deeper into topics, and best of all, one that promotes self-directed learning. It sounds good, right? You see, when helping others to learn, you are not always going to be the expert or have the specific knowledge required at that particular moment. But that should never halt the learning process from taking place. The OAR cycle is key to progress. Before beginning, ask the person to clearly state their learning objective. This helps to set a specific focus for the implementation of that OAR cycle. Now let's dive in. There are 3 key questions that you need to ask. Number 1, what options are available to you now? Number 2, what action will you take? And number 3, did this action allow you to make progress? These can be adapted as required, particularly depending on the context in which you're using them. However, the basis of these relate distinctly back to the OAR cycle. Options, action, reflect. As you repeat the cycle, you place the ownership onto the learner to make decisions for themselves. There will be opportunities to provide suggestions to support the new options, and these work best when they align with previous learning. And I would personally recommend having one more question up your sleeve to assist with options. What else? It's amazing how the power of possibility opens up new avenues or new pathways that didn't seem to be there before. And that one question can open up many opportunities for the learner to expand their learning. Let's put this into the context of a jigsaw puzzle. And when attempting a jigsaw puzzle, there are a number of ways that this can be approached. For instance, you could grab pieces at random and try and fit them together. Or you could sort the edge pieces first. You could also flip the pieces upside down and look for shapes that fit. Or finally, you could gather light colours and group them together. Each of these options is a method for approaching the puzzle. You will determine which of these is best, usually through your experience of doing a task like this before and which options you know are going to apply. However, for someone who is starting into the learning process, it's about developing their awareness that these options exist. Some are going to be preferable, but overall, options are the key part of understanding that there is more than one way to approach a situation. Putting these options into action is best suited when focusing on one at a time. This allows a clearer understanding of what particular option is being utilized to evaluate the outcomes of this. For instance, if we start with the edge pieces and make our way around, we're actually reducing the number of pieces that we need to deal with, making the action more manageable. This then leads to reflection, the final part of the step, where we can see the progress that's been made and evaluate what those next steps are going to be. It might be then that we can look to fill by colour, or we might notice that there's some patterns that are emerging that we can take advantage of. The key part of this is because we've made progress, the next actions become clearer, and we can respond through using the OAR cycle again. And because the OAR cycle is repeatable, it means that we can break down larger learning objectives into smaller components that really promote progress. Don't be afraid of the I don't know. It's the first place that people go to when they feel that they've exhausted their options. However, it's a great opportunity for you to help tease out some additional opportunities that might be applicable in this. This can be approached through a question such as, what has worked for you previously? Or what is the process that would allow you to build more options? Yes, these are a couple of additional questions. However, if they could do it themselves, they would. And that's why we're here to help others learn. The flip side of this, of course, is the too many options. This can cause just as many problems as not having any to work with. And the simple key here is to simply state an order for how these can be completed. Thinking back to our puzzle, we can determine that we can place these into an order, despite there being multiple ways in which we can proceed. This helps to create a systematic approach and allow us to work out which ones are more likely to produce the result that we're after. Procrastination is another key factor. If this is happening consistently, it can come down to a couple of key points that can be addressed and can be used to help the learner make progress. The first step is to identify the minimum viable action that allows progress. Start super small, but ensure that it's possible to measure the progress. By starting small, keeping it simple, Often it allows people to see that they can make progress, which is a key part of learning. Something else is to ensure that options don't exceed the current ability. This is where an I do, we do, you do is required. The teacher or mentor demonstrates, then assists the learner before allowing them to complete the action independently. This still works within the cycle and is an important early step in their learning journey. It's also important to avoid the option reflection trap. This is where you evaluate all of the options and determine that none of them are going to work before taking any action. This can be a fear of failure, or it can just simply be a reluctance to engage into it. Again, the action is the key part of the cycle, and to ensure that the full cycle is utilized, it's best to consider, how do I help them get to that action point? How do I help them to take that step, particularly when they have been able to identify options that are going to be useful in their learning? The more experience that learners have with the OAR cycle, they will find that some of those failures or perceived mistakes are not as threatening as they had been previously. Therefore, at the end of that process, they know that it's going to restart and they can simply take a different pathway to be able to see if that's going to be more successful in how they learn. The concept is simple, and that's the key part of this. However, the execution takes practice. What you'll find is at the same time that you're helping your learner to engage in the OAR cycle, you're also engaging in the OAR cycle yourself, thinking about what options are there for you to support them through the process. What actions will you take, including giving them the opportunity to learn independently and stepping back, as well as that reflection of, can I see that they're progressing? Can they see that they're progressing? As the cycle gets repeated, learning grows, confidence grows, and progress is evident. The key part then is starting to help that learner to become self-directed in what they're doing, making decisions for themselves, being able to explore options that were beyond what were there originally. As you go through this and support your learner, take note of how they're going and make sure that you help them to see the progress that they're gaining through this now and in the future.